this is where I want to be. This is home. I'm at home, and I want to build a real foundation. And ultimately, this is where my legacy, where I want to leave the biggest imprint on. It's not putting a gun to Kawhi and telling him he's got to do this or do that. Hopefully, it's a mutual bond, and we both enjoy playing with one another. So. Everybody's got their own decisions to make, and hopefully me showing my commitment, being here and wanting to play with him long term, sticks out. I owe him a trophy. That's what I owe this organization. This is a window that we're trying to capture, and my commitment and my job is to try to bring a title here.
Paul George got paid and the hair's tight. You can see it. He signs a max extension to stay with the Clippers. According to Woj, the deal guarantees George will make as much as $226 million over the next 5 years. The Clippers are extending his deal for an additional 4 years at $190 million on top of the $35.4 million guaranteed for the 2020-2021 season. The deal also includes a new player option before the 2024-2025 season. Big Perk joins us, gracing your television screens. Always good to see you, sir. But Stephen A., I'm starting with you on this one. Do you feel like PG-13 deserved that kind of money, deserved the max?
I believe he did. Regardless of his troubles in the postseason, I believe he deserves it. The fact of the matter is, when you've got a Russell Westbrook making $217 million, when you have John Wall over $170, and you see the kind of money that these guys are getting paid, I have no problem with Paul George getting this money. And a matter of fact, what I really, really want to applaud about him is the fact that he didn't duck and run. You hit the side of the damn backboard. You fold into Game 7. You don't get it done. I don't want you looking to go elsewhere and to skip town after this upcoming season because you could be a free agent. You right there in town in L.A. They're willing to give you the money. You're going to be a face of the franchise. You ain't ducking and running, and you acknowledged for the public to know you owe the organization a ring, because last year, in my opinion, was your best chance to get it, and you blew it. So the fact that he's willing to embrace the challenge, accept the challenge, I like that. And in terms of the max extension, again, I've always been of the mindset it's not just what you do in the postseason, it's what you do over the course of 82 games. It's whether or not you show up and you're ready to roll. For the most part, throughout his career, when you watch some of these numbers, the year before he averaged 28, and so I'm looking at it from that perspective, and I'm saying to myself, excuse me, the brother's got potential. We've called him a star. Why are we lamenting the things that he did in the postseason? Because we expected better from him, and he didn't give that to us. So he's got some making up to do to the Clippers organization, and to those that had lofty expectations for him. But having said that, in terms of character as well, I don't think you can meet a better person. He's a real good dude. He's going to work hard. He's not going to cheat you with effort. His durability might be a question mark from time to time, but in the end, I think particularly in today's NBA economy with the money that's flowing around today, you got an opportunity to keep Paul George over the next 5 years. You do it.
Let me be very clear. The Clippers had to extend him. They had to extend him because they had to make the trade for him, or else they get no Kawhi or Paul George. They had to do. Who wouldn't do that? And then once you have him, you can't let him walk out the door. Someone's going to give him a max contract. The Clippers had to do it. I get it. But did he deserve it? I take no pleasure in saying this, guys. The answer is no. He did not deserve it. Now, let me tell you something. For years, I would have heated debates when I would say Paul George is better than Carmelo Anthony. Because Carmelo was a better scorer, but Paul George was a very good scorer, and Paul George is a shutdown defender. Great defender, and Carmelo wasn't. I used to have debates with this. It's not like I'm not a Paul George guy. I really, really thought he was excellent for a number of years. Maybe before the mainstream caught on to how good he was. But here's the problem, guys. That applies to the regular season. He was 28, 8, and 6 on the year 2 years ago. On the season, he's capable of being a top 5 MVP player or in that conversation until it matters most. Guys, the reason you have to perform in the playoffs in the NBA, the only thing that matters is the playoffs. Don't talk to me about the regular season, is this. They want to do play-in games now? Guys, already 8 teams in each conference make the playoffs. That's over 50% of the teams, 15 teams in each conference. Already over 50% of the teams make the playoffs. You had a play-in game, that's postseason. Once the season's over and you're still playing, that's postseason. So you mean to tell me 10 out of 15 teams make the playoffs, basically? 10 out of 15, that's 2/3 of the league is in the playoffs. Don't even talk to me about the regular season. If you had studs on the roster, you will always be in the postseason. And then how do you play? Guys, Paul George is paid like a superstar. This is the most money we're allowed to give you, right? Because, of course, they make rules so they can underpay the players. But this is the most money we can contractually give you to be a superstar. And then when it doesn't matter, you're almost a superstar. And when it matters most, you're a kind of average, maybe a tick above average starter? No, guys. The reason the Clippers, really, you look at them, you go, they have a shot against the Lakers, they're going to win a championship? I mean, whatever Kawhi did in Game 7, we know what Kawhi can do. We know Paul George is going to go away. At least that's what he's done so far. It doesn't mean he'll always do it. I'm rooting for him. He's, by the way, a very nice guy. I dealt with Paul George when I was out in L.A. before around the All-Star games. A very nice guy. Easy to root for. That's different than saying he deserved that contract. If you get paid like a superstar, you got to be a superstar when it matters most.
Well, Stephen A. Max, y'all know I was a former player, and I'm all in for guys that's playing to get their bread, to get their lettuce, because although basketball is entertainment to the outside world, I know that this is a job. And even when I was a vet, I encouraged guys to get their bread. Now, did he deserve the max contract in my eyes? Hell no. But I'm not taking away from what him and his agent done, and that was capitalize on the moment. But gave up, all these first-round picks and everything that they had basically to acquire Paul George, to get him to the Clippers. And here it is, you got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on the back end where they have a player option for next year to opt out. And so you can't risk losing Paul George. I get that. But here's the thing. Where's the ownership on the front office? Lawrence Frank, the front office of the organization, and I'm going to ask you this because I'm trying to figure out what are the goals, what are the standards for the Clippers organization? Because you look at the performance that Paul George had in the bubble, and it was horrible. And they lost a 7-game series to the Denver Nuggets, and a lot of it went on Paul George because of his performance. Kawhi had a sorry, unexcusable Game 7, and I get that. But for majority of the playoffs, he was phenomenal. Paul George didn't step up in that Robin role. And so when you're looking at the Clippers organization, their standards should be high. It should be super high. At the very minimum, you make the conference finals. And this is a league that is a what have you done for me lately type league. And if you go back and reflect, Paul George didn't do nothing. So I'm not knocking him for taking a deal, but I am putting a lot of ownership on the front office of what are your goals, what are your standards, and just handing out cash.
Well, let me say this, and I think it's important. I get where you're coming from, KP. And again, even though I disagree with both of y'all, it's in a respectful position because I understand that y'all are making valid points. I'm not refuting that. But I just want to throw out, just for this season alone, and we're not talking about the contract because we understand the contract extension and what that's going to lead to about $226 million. But let's just go down the list of the top salaries in the NBA this year. We got no problem with Steph Curry, number one, at $43 million. Russell